Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Facebook Live with Magdalena. I am not alone today. I've got my colleague Joanne Phillips. I'm gonna introduce you to her in just a second, a little bit more, so we can dive straight into our topic for today, which I think is really important, and that is estrogen dominance. Part of the reason why I decided to talk about estrogen dominance and I reached out to Joanne to join me for today's call is because I feel like it's one of those hormonal imbalances that is so prevalent among so many women, yet it is so hugely underdiagnosed. So one of the things I want to mention is that, I don't know about you guys, but I don't watch the news, and I think you're not too huge on that either, right?
Well, yeah, I try to stay on enough where it doesn't aggravate you. So
exactly. So I don't go online anymore to look at news because this makes me sad and angry and all of that. And I felt like my adrenals really benefit when I do not watch news. And so it was kind of a surprise to, I was actually in deep grief yesterday, seeing what happened with this whole Larry Nassar situation and the abuse that went on for so many years. And, but one of the things that triggered me, which I think is like a continuation of the wave of the Me Too campaign that's been going on, and that is just the realization that perhaps it is time for us to realize that a doctor is not a god. And everything that we've been told by a doctor, it not always does it have to be true. It doesn't have to be relevant to you. And I feel like it's a really huge insight into what we want to talk about today, estrogen dominance. There are so many women who have estrogen dominance, yet have been told by their doctors that you've got fibroids, you've got endometriosis, you've got terrible PMSs, you've got really tender boobs, you've got thyroid nodules, and all of that. Nothing can be done about it. And so this is something that I'm hugely passionate about, this topic. And I feel like this whole Larry Nassar and the thing that happened is just the beginning of a huge journey that's about to come, and that is going to be an opening and realization that a doctor is not a god. It is our responsibility as women, though, to question what we've been told. Mm-hmm. And it's, with the amazing resources like the Facebook Live and availability of so many functional medicine practitioners today talking about that kind of stuff, take advantage of all of that. And it is time to help ourselves and speak up to our doctors and disagree if things do not seem to intuitively agree with you. I think a lot of times you guys, many of you can relate how we go and see a doctor and every single cell in your body screaming, something is not making sense, and you're not hearing me. It's not in my head, and I've been cutting down my calories to 1,000 calories a day, and yet I'm carrying all that extra weight, and I'm so depressed, and I've got anxiety problems. I can't sleep at night. It is not in my head, and putting people on antidepressants, it's not the way to go. And many of us know it, yet we don't really do anything about it. And so I think it's time to change that. And, estrogen dominance is one of those things that I'm really passionate about because it can lead on to very serious conditions further down the road. But there's also a lot of things that we can do so that we do not live in a place of fear. We do not live with, being told by the doctor that just because you have breast lumps, there's nothing that can be done. You can do a lot of things. And that's what I invited Joanne today to talk to us about this. Hey, you guys, so I got so sick when I watched the news, says Jennifer. Thank you. I know, right? Me too. That's why I think it's really good for the adrenals. Do what you know is really good for you. What's nourishing, what's nurturing, rather than what you should be doing, right?
And I think piggybacking on what you said, it's everybody here that's listening in, you all have choices. If you're going to a doctor that's not listening to you, time to maybe change that doctor. So there's a lot of things that are within our own power to make really the best choices for us. So again, turn on the news, not turn on the news. Things that are going to get you upset, your stress level up, which is going to affect your adrenals. Make the choices not to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. So, so let's dive straight into estrogen dominance. And I want to introduce you to my good colleague here, Joanne Phillips, has got a master's in nutrition sciences. She has been helping me to put the whole hormone balance nutritional product line together. She's our product advisor. She's a person who knows supplements inside out like no one else that I know. She's been working with functional medicine practitioners for 20 years, right? And I am so deeply impressed with her knowledge of hormonal health, women's health, her interest and passion of women's health as much as I am excited about it. So let me just read out a couple of comments. Amy's saying, I'm so excited to have you guys on Facebook Live. Awesome, thank you. And she's listening from Dallas, Texas. So do a little shout out for us. Let us know where you tuning in from. And, and so I'm curious, how many of you here know that you have estrogen dominance? And like, it's been confirmed, whatever, diagnosed properly. Mm-hmm. And how many of you here have the symptoms that we listed right on top of this video? And we're going to talk a little more about the symptoms in just a second, but just a very quick overview: the PMSs, the fibrocystic breast, the tender breast, the thyroid nodules, endometriosis, fibroids. All of them can be attributed to estrogen dominance. How many of you have it but been told that you don't have any issues with hormones per se? I'm very curious about that. Let's see. Amy is saying, I was diagnosed by a doctor. Great. So at least fantastic. And Amy, I'm wondering, what are you doing to address your estrogen dominance right now? I know I'm doing things about it without surgery. Awesome. That's what we want. We absolutely don't want to go down that path. She's on hormone replacement therapy for the past 3 years. Great. So let's talk about that in our conversation. Okay, you guys. So keep the questions coming. We'll revisit them. I've got also my iPad in here, so we're gonna be looking at the iPad to review the questions. So the first thing I want to start off with is Joanne, let's talk about symptoms first, because there's a lot of symptoms that I didn't put up on there on the board, but we want to really cover them properly. And then we're going to talk about what's causing estrogen dominance. Really, what is estrogen dominance? What's going on, like in terms of your hormone that's causing estrogen dominance? And then we're going to dive into solutions. Okay. We're going to talk about nutrition and diet. We're going to talk about some supplements that Joanne has helped me pick for today's call. Let's have some fun. And this is going to be hugely educational. All right, so let's start off with symptoms. So I talked already about it, and just in case you're diving in a little bit late, we've got about 70 people listening live to us right now. It's going up. In case you're diving in a little bit later, we are talking about estrogen dominance, which, in my view, apart from a thyroid, is one of the most underdiagnosed condition amongst women. In the sense that majority of women I know, even if you had it for menopause or you're already in menopause and perimenopause, let me tell you, the name is kind of confusing. Estrogen dominance is like you had so much of estrogen. Doesn't have to be. And Joanne's and I gonna be talking about that, how this is possible. So I don't want you to tune out in case you're headed for menopause. You can still have estrogen dominance. Think about the symptoms. Don't focus so much about the word dominance. Doesn't really mean all that much. Mm-hmm. So why don't we, apart from the ones that I mentioned already, what else are we dealing with when it comes to estrogen dominance?
Well, I think one of the ones that, like you did mention, but what people will see is a lot of more of that breast tenderness, and a lot of women end up with these fibroids in the breast. There's also thyroid imbalances that start happening with estrogen dominance. So again, being proactive and really making sure that you get your thyroid panel done. And, a lot of these conditions we're going to talk about, estrogen dominance can be a definite factor, but there might be other factors as well. And this is what I'm saying about just choices and more control that we take in everyday choices. So some of the things with estrogen dominance also, and I got my little cheat sheet here, just because I don't want to miss anything. So things like, dry eyes can be it, depression, mood swings, not being able to sleep. Mm-hmm. Okay. So these are really big things that a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I got one of those symptoms, or I got two of those symptoms, or, oh yeah, I got all five of those symptoms. So these are the things that you want to get those, alarm bells on in your head, saying, hey, I really got to look deeper into this.
One of my favorite things also of observing estrogen dominance or hormonal imbalances is looking at where the distribution of fat is around the body. So estrogen dominant women tend to be the classical pair, so to speak. So we were talking about depositing fat around thighs and butts. And a lot of time, believe it or not, cellulite actually, with so many women are addressing topically, can also be due to estrogen dominance. So really powerful thing to note. In our conversation before we got started, like you mentioned about how carrying a lot of body fat around your abdomen, right?
So basically, we as women will be dealing with levels of this Okay. You know, some people could deal with it as early as their late 30s. But definitely starts getting into your 40s and your 50s, your perimenopausal, menopausal years.
Some people could deal with it as early as their late 30s.
But she's got me in the background here.
Yeah, let me just. And this is new to me, so
she's new to her
okay,
new
never
iPad.
mind. I'm gonna turn that off.
Okay, so again, as we're dealing in our, most women in their 40s are going to go through perimenopausal, and then you're hitting menopause is going to hit late 40s, 50s for some of us. So what starts happening is that those maybe can relate to this. I know I can. In my 20s and 30s, I mean, I never had any kind of weight issues. It was great. 40s hit, late 40s hit, and it was like, ooh,
Yeah.
So muscle mass is a little bit harder to keep on. So what starts happening is you're getting more adipose tissue, which is your fat tissue. And what starts happening is that you end up taking your testosterone and you aromatize it or turn it into more estrogens. So the more fat you have on your body, the more, the more estrogen you start making, within. And that's a problem. That's one thing that can add to the estrogen dominance. Other things is hormone replacement therapy, even if you need it, but that can still be a source of it. We were talking about it's a good time to get into the food factor and the xenobiotics.
Yeah, but you mentioned hormone replacement. There's somebody who just said that she's addressing estrogen dominance through hormone replacement. So I just want to be clear, hormone replacement can be anything from testosterone, progesterone, different kind of estrogens, right? Typically it's estradiol or estriol. And we want to make sure that it's what we are talking about is what can cause estrogen dominance is the estrogen bioidentical hormones, the estradiol, right?
Absolutely. The big thing with estrogen balance, I think this is a good time to just kind of make a little bit of a mention. Usually the estrogen dominance starts happening as we get older and progesterone starts to go lower. So, and that's going to be a quicker decline than the estrogens. It's a little bit more like, it's literally like dropping off a cliff than the estrogens, which is just going to more like slow down and go down slowly.
And I'm glad you brought this up because progesterone and estrogen like two dancing partners.
Yes.
Think about it this way, right? Like if the man is too dominant, then the woman makes it look very meek, and if the woman is too weak, right, if the woman is too overpowering, then the guy also makes him look not very good as a dancing partner. So think of progesterone, estrogen as being in this
they are
beautiful
partners.
dance.
Yes,
yeah.
they are partners, and they need to keep each other in checks and balances. That's really what happens. So as we get older, and we get older, this is just going to be something that naturally happens. Some people will deal with it more severely than others. So just understand what your friend or your friend or your sister might have dealt with is going to be different than what you're dealing with. So understand that everyone is very uniquely made.
Yeah. And so let's talk about causation of estrogen dominance. We're going to talk about, hey, you guys, for those of you who are joining us late, we're talking about nutrients for estrogen dominance today. Everything from symptoms, which we just covered. We're going to talk about where is this all coming from, and then we're going to talk about nutritional changes that you can do to support estrogen dominance right away. And but also to amplify healing. I love using the line of products that Joanne has helped us put together, Hormone Balance Nutritionals. So we're getting a lot of loves and likes, and thank you. I always love seeing those. It's like, it's so goofy, but it's like.
I'd rather have it than the mad faces.
Right. No mad faces this time around. Okay, so let's talk about what causes estrogen dominance. And before that, I just want to do a couple of shout outs here. Oh, Marcia is saying you look really good for your age. Okay, I'm not sure if
which one?
I think we both
look okay for our age. I'm 48 if anyone wants to know.
How old are you?
I'm 48.
She's 48. Can you believe she's 48? I'm 45, right? So when you take care of yourself, you do look good. Kay is asking, what about menopause? Hey, you guys, we're going to do another call on menopause. I just want to focus on estrogen dominance. However, Kay, one thing I want to say is that just because you are in menopause, it doesn't mean you do not have estrogen dominance. So just look at the symptoms that we mentioned. In fact, I do see a lot of women developing thyroid nodules in their menopause, and that typically happens when the progesterone we mentioned starts really dropping. Let's see what else we've got coming up here. I'm going to read out the questions. Angela is saying she's got all the 5 symptoms. I was told it was all due to thyroid, and they are very closely interconnected, just to let you know. Marissa is saying, so glad to catch you guys tonight. I have terrible PMS and terrible cramps, thyroid nodules but all docs say I am normal. I am American living in Munich, Germany, so sometimes I miss the Facebook Live due to time differences. Awesome, we cut us today, so that's great. And hey, Marissa, so we're gonna be talking about what you can do to help yourself. Just stay with us. But I wanna just, before we dive into solutions, I also want you to know what's causing estrogen dominance, because once you know what's causing it, then you can start putting a little bit of a stop and slow down where this is all coming from. So tell us.
All right, so basically, as I said, your body's naturally going to produce estrogen. Some people may produce more than others. So again, always think of just the individual. Another thing is some things are within our choices here. This is where I think the food first philosophy definitely applies. You have a choice of what types of food you eat. Do you eat hormone-laced foods, or are you eating organic, things that are not, made with any kind of hormones? Yeah. These chemicals that are in the food, these xenoestrogens, these are estrogen mimickers. So they actually act as estrogen in the body, yet if you do a blood test of estrogen, it's not going to show up as estrogen. They mimic, it's a different structural molecule, but it will act as estrogen, and that's really important. So the everyday things that we can do is we can eat better. We could choose to eat organic, choose to eat, less treated fruits and vegetables. You can hopefully figure out ways to control your stress. Stress raises cortisol. Cortisol is going to make it, heavier. It's going to increase your adipose tissue. So keep in mind how much of this, when we deal with functional medicine, we realize how these systems are all related. So when we deal with estrogen dominance, you still got to take care of the thyroid, because if that now is affecting the thyroid, now you got your thyroid you got to deal with. So again, all of these things, these different ways that we can get exposed to estrogens outside of our own production of them is through the food. But again, it does not have the same structure, so it doesn't show up in a test, but it will act as regular estrogen. And these are called estrogen mimickers.
So one of the, let's dive into a little bit about since we're talking about food, what can we do to nutritionally support estrogen dominance? One of the big things is the function of the liver, right? How important the liver is in rebalancing our hormones. And so what are your favorite foods for like detoxing the liver?
Well, we'll get into that with the supplements, but any kind of cruciferous vegetables are great.
Yes.
So those are the big ones, and we'll get into that with some of the estrogen support type of detoxification supplements that we designed. But listen, I mean, if you can go, gluten-free, obviously dairy-free as much as you can, anything that is going to, again, give you that little edge up is going to be great. So good, like berries versus more concentrated sugary fruits, vegetables of all kinds. I don't find it offensive unless you have.
Love cruciferous. I also love like a couple of tablespoons of freshly ground flaxseed, adding that in.
Nut butters.
Nut butters can be great if you can tolerate nuts, right? That they're fantastic. We also, like, one of my absolute favorites is big part of my cooking program is broccoli sprouts. Not everybody likes to eat them. Not everybody has access to them. And that's why we do have a supplement option for you. So this is one of the things we're gonna go into just a second. But those are some of the things. So anti-inflammatory diet, just getting off food sensitivities, like what Joanne said, getting off gluten, getting off dairy, getting off minimal sugar as much as possible. Minimizing stress is a huge thing. It's interesting when cortisol levels go up, it creates something called the pregnenolone steal, which pregnenolone is the mother hormone off which cortisol and progesterone are being produced. And so a lot of cortisol is being produced because we are stressed out, whether it's emotional stress, whether it's physical stress, like over-exercising can be a contributing factor. Right, it steals it takes the pregnenolone as the mother hormone. It channels everything towards cortisol, so not enough is left for progesterone production, and the little progesterone production then it's insufficient to basically rebalance the estrogens that we the axis of which we're dealing with, right? So I talk a lot about food all the time. I want to kind of transition to supplements because my stand on this, and I just want to make this clear. As hormones balance as a practitioner, to me, food is always, I always say food is first and always, right? And then supplements are there to amplify the healing, right? And can you get well by taking supplements only while you're eating a crappy diet? Very little, very little. This is really, supplements are there to amplify healing. You got to build a foundation with a really good diet. So I know many of you are, and part of the reason, Joanne, why I reached out to to you and we formulated we put the whole product line together was because, I know you guys are buying supplements. And a lot of times people say, yeah, you told me to take magnesium because I was clearly depleted. And then I was taking magnesium I'm taking now for 2 months and like nothing is happening, right? And then when you look at the type of magnesium they were taking, it was not a good type of magnesium. And so that's the reason why I realized that the quality of supplements is as important as the supplements you're taking. And so that's why I went the direction of working with the top supplement quality that's out there in the market. So why don't we just dive into, which one would you want to talk about first? Like what's important?
Let's just kind of talk about the breakdowns of estrogen. So, you know, people, there's different types of estrogens in the body, but let's just kind of for simplicity purposes, and you guys can always ask questions if you want more detail. Basically, you know, whether we're making estrogen or we're getting estrogen in with a hormone replacement therapy, it has to go into the liver to get broken down. And this is where your phase 1, phase 2 detoxification pathways will kick in. Well, sometimes you can't really control how well phase 1 and phase 2 is in, you know, your body. So when you're breaking down these estrogens, it can go into more detrimental estrogen metabolites or more protective or more protective metabolite. So these are going to be your insurance policy to make sure your estrogens are getting broken down correctly. So you may have heard, I think everybody has, you know, some level of knowledge, maybe certain ones better than others, but you might have heard like 2-hydroxyestrone or 4-hydroxyestrone or 16-hydroxyestrone. These are these metabolites of estrogen. And basically the 2 tends to be protective. The 4 and the 16 tends to be more detrimental. And we don't want those to be high. Those are more damaging. So with the diindolylmethane methane or the DIM, which is, what is this one? The Estro Support.
Yeah.
Okay, which is this product right here. This is a great product. And basically what makes this DIM product in the Estro Support different than what you probably see on the market is going to be the fact that this is an emulsified DIM. All right, so maybe some of you guys have taken CoQ10 out there. Well, you know CoQ10 is always delivered in a soft gel, all right? Because CoQ10 material crystallizes. When something crystallizes, it lowers the bioavailability of that nutrient. DIM, the material of DIM is the same thing. It will crystallize. It doesn't mean you don't get any bioavailability, you just get lower amounts of bioavailability. Okay, so if you really want a robust delivery of diindolylmethane methane, or DIM, you would take it in a soft gel. This is going to ensure maximum bioavailability of the DIM product. Now, DIM is from cruciferous vegetables, which is a good thing. All right, this is going to work on the first part of detoxification, phase 1. It will increase your 2-hydroxyestrones, the good protective ones, and it'll actually lower the 16s, the detrimental ones. The 4s are the bad ones, which comes into a different part. So when you're dealing with diindolylmethane methane or DIM, again, that's going to increase the 2-hydroxyestrones. It's going to lower the 16s. So that's a good thing.
And can I just say that when you talk about the antagonistic, right, the bad guys of estrogen, those are the ones that are causing the growth of the cancer cells or lump cells, the pathogenic cells that we're talking about. Like, why do we have fibrocystic breast, right? So those are the estrogens that are actually fueling the growth of these cells. So this is where DIM, our Estro Support, can help. By the way, I just posted the URL where you can get the DIM, and that's the hormonebalancenutritionals.com. The link is right up there. We got a couple of questions coming in, so let's do this. I think Whitney is asking a really important question. So much, can this affect fertility? Estrogen dominance.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Because a lot of times, again, with that progesterone estrogen partnership that it is, a lot of times you'll see women that miscarry. So progesterone will go up in like halfway in the cycle. So a lot of times when progesterone's down, they may miscarry. So it's really important to have these 2 hormones very happy together. They need to be happily married.
Absolutely. They got to be good partners. Really good questions coming in. So we've got Anne is asking about, Sarah is asking, can DIM cause fatigue?
I've never heard that at all.
Unless you're using some cheap brand that uses some crappy fillers.
Yeah, I mean you can, but it's not something that you'd probably see. It's a safe product. It's a great product.
Not this one. This shouldn't. It was just. She's saying.
I know it. Yeah, estrogen dominance can give you fatigue, but DIM will not give you fatigue.
Yeah, it should actually help out, if anything. A really great question from Anne is that I have hypothyroidism. Are the cruciferous still okay for us?
Yeah, those are the goitrogens. Yeah. So those are those things. And, you know, I mean, honestly, I'll leave that to these, like the thyroid specialists. But from what I've dealt with in the functional medicine field, there's no goitrogens in the products that we're talking about. So don't worry about that. But for if you're just eating broccoli and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts, it would be a mixed message. There has to be a lot to really affect thyroid. From what I know.
And it has to be in a raw form. So can I just comment on that? Thyroid was my domain for a long time. So when you talk about, this is a great question, and this is like something that's been such a big myth out there. And if you talk about to Dr. Karazian, you talk about to Isabella Wentz or Dr. Ellen Christensen, they all say the same thing. There isn't a single study that shows that cruciferous vegetables will cause a thyroid failure. The same as you, I take the same stance that I have come across women who are juicing copious amounts of cruciferous vegetables raw and putting, like, you know, eating 3 bunches of kale every day, right? Because they're on a health trip with their on a special date with their blender, and then 2 months later having a thyroid problem. And whether it's because of oxalates or is it because it was just too much of the good stuff, who knows? So I would say everything in moderation. There is no studies as such, and DIM certainly will not give you thyroid issues. In fact, if anything, it helps the conversion of, so with the thyroid issue, there's a conversion of T4 happens to T3. And when you have estrogen dominance, and that includes birth control pills. There's a reason why birth control pills make a lot of women really fat, right? Is because they bind up a lot of the thyroid hormone, but they also slow the conversion of T4 to T3. So if anything, DIM and reversing estrogen dominance is going to help your thyroid and not deplete it anyway or inhibit it in any way. So don't worry about that. Let's see, what else do we have in terms of questions? Good questions coming up, you guys. Is this hormone replacement, Crystal is saying? I just tuned in. Absolutely not. No, not at all.
Hormone replacement is when you're actually giving the hormones.
Right.
What we're doing was we're supporting the conversion of those hormones.
Yeah.
So that's the important difference here.
Julie's asking, can I take this DIM with progesterone? Great question.
Sure.
Absolutely. Yes. Let's see, there's some other good questions we had. Infertility we've covered. Okay, isn't timing of when you take the supplement key?
Not so much on this one. No, I wouldn't worry about it.
A lot of other supplements, yes, like for example, B vitamins, you don't want to do it at night because they're gonna stimulate you. You know? But
no, you're fine.
You're fine.
I've taken these in the day. You're good to go.
Okay, so that's about DIM. Which one should we talk about next?
Then we'll talk about the Brocco Power, which is the sulforaphane. So basically, what's found in cruciferous vegetables is these glucosinolates, which then get converted over to sulforaphane. Sulforaphane, I think, came on the scene maybe in 1992-ish with a lot of studies. So basically, this is really affecting phase 2 detoxification. So it's not only going to affect detoxification for hormones, which is what we're talking about, but even just in general, which is never a bad thing. So with this one, you're dealing with taking those estrogens in that second part of liver detoxification, where the 4-hydroxyestrone becomes an issue, and really minimizing the ability for the liver not to break that down correctly and increase those 4s. The Brocco Power will actually help lower those 4s and get that phase 2 detoxification of those estrogens kicked in. So it's really important that you understand those 3 different types of estrogen metabolites, and these products are working on all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Okay. It'd be nice if it was just, maybe someday we could have just one product on this, which would be really, really exciting. But with the DIM delivery requiring that emulsified technology, it gets a little bit tricky. So got to give them in 2 right now.
Yeah. So in terms of dosage for DIM, we're talking about, what would you typically recommend?
2, but even 1, 100 can work really, really well.
That's one pill.
And you can start at 1, and then you can always go up if you don't see the symptomology improving. So that can easily be dosed up safely.
And also I want to talk about sulforaphane here a little bit. So for those of you with a history of breast cancers, breast lumps, family, running in a family, sulforaphane, the Brocco Power, can really be a powerful addition here. And always, if you're joining us late, if you haven't heard this before, diet is always first of all. Anti-inflammatory, getting off all the stuff that we talked about, getting on organic food. and then coupling them with this. Eating copious amounts of cruciferous vegetables, steaming them, right, as part of your diet, but then adding this in. So I want to just mention one thing about sulforaphane, which I think is really powerful. There's a study, and actually I'm quoting that in my book that's coming out in April, you guys. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in next month when the book is going to be out for pre-sale. But one of the cool things that I noticed about the study was that, well, there was this one study I found was that there is that was showing that just doing a cup of broccoli sprouts a day had the same efficacy in shrinking and reducing and preventing women from developing breast cancers as this nasty, medication called tamoxifen, right? So for those of you who ever have had breast cancers or had somebody close to you who is on it, tamoxifen is basically an estrogen blocker. The problem is, like with a lot of Western medicine, it causes a lot of side effects, and this is the reason why typically women are not put on tamoxifen for more than 5 years, because it really affects the liver in a huge way, right? And so here we have, you have an option. Either do a cup of broccoli sprouts every day. It's not everybody's favorite. Some people would not grow it or have access to it in supermarkets, or you're traveling. A lot of times when I travel, I just take my Brocco Power with me.
To me, it's easier to just pop a pill on this one. I eat, a lot of cruciferous vegetables, but to me, because I could deal with like 1 or 2 pills a day with this one.
Yeah. So Martha is asking, are there any animal products in the supplements? The answer is nope, we do not. Not in these ones, right?
No, I don't believe so.
I mean, unless fish oils, of course, that will be that, but we're not talking about fish oils here today at all. Let's see. Do you have a protocol for thyroid nodules? Stefka is asking. So thyroid nodule, there's a lot of research that shows that thyroid nodules can be due to estrogen dominance. I would start off with either DIM or sulforaphane. We also have one more third product we want to talk about in just a second, called the Wise Women Balance. That's a really beautiful formulation as well. We'll tell you guys about this in a second. But I will start off with this too, Stefka. And one of the things I would also be really particular about is that the thyroid tends to attract a lot of toxins. And so detoxing your life as much as possible will be a really great idea. Part of estrogen dominance management and protocol is also, we didn't mention that, but I thought it was kind of I talk about it all the time in my herbal program as well. Get off all the commercial skincare products, all the stuff you see in the main media, right? All the L'Oreals and Pantenes and whatnot. Get rid of all of that stuff. That stuff is loaded with xenoestrogens. Cleaning products, anything that smells nice other than real essential oils, you want to get rid of all of that stuff. Inhalation can also it turns things into xenoestrogens. So we want to get all of those out of our lives. And I found that, so Stefka, just so that you know, I had three thyroid nodules, 2 on this side, 1 on this side, many years ago, and I definitely had estrogen dominance. I mean, one thing we didn't talk about is water retention. When you have estrogen dominance, like you gotta take off your ring once in a while because your hands, because you get there's so much water retention going on, which can also then increase your weight, right? Which you're like, I can't lose weight. And, one of the things that I did, and this was a time when I was living in China, so super toxic environment, right? And definitely had huge estrogen dominance going on. So like all the water retention, terrible PMSs, bloating on the face, especially around the time of my, periods, weight gain around my belly, all that kind of stuff. So what I would say is that really detoxing your life and then coupling that with the diet changes we talked about and incorporating Brocco Power and Estro Support can really set you in a good direction. And I want to tell you, so I had a thyroid scan done literally 3 months ago for the first time in 7 years, 8 years.
Okay. And
I was like, I'm really curious, like, are they still there? And, and the tech said, she's like, I said, I have history of Hashimoto's, and with my antibodies are almost undetectable now. And so she's doing her thing, and I'm like looking at the screen. She's like, you're supposed to look at the screen. And then I'm like, I have history of Hashimoto's, and she says, I'm not supposed to talk about this, but your thyroid looks so beautiful.
That's great.
So it's totally, and I used to have like porous, because when you have Hashimoto's, there's a lot of autoimmune attack on the thyroid, then it never looks like a really beautiful, clean tissue. It does look kind of porous, and and sickly, and you have nodules as well, none of that, all gone.
That's fantastic. That's great.
Good stuff. So all of that can be changed. So why don't we talk about, should we talk about our Wise Women Balance? This is actually one of our favorite products,
yes,
right?
This is a really exciting product because it's going to be a foundational product for women. So again, when you really want to deal with more of truly breaking down the estrogen metabolites, you'll deal with the Estro Support and the Brocco Power. But if you just want a foundational balancer / protector, that would be, you know, again, that the Wise Woman Balance. So in any event, so basically some of the things that are in here are going to be chasteberry extract. And this is going to really work on follic stimulating hormone, which is really, you know, really important to keep follic stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone in a really nice harmony. So this can also help, this formula can help with, you know, PMS symptoms. It can help with regulation of periods. There's some B vitamins in there that can help with like cervical dysplasia. The one that works on the luteinizing hormone is the black cohosh. So that was a really, really nice one as well. So that again, we want to work on the FSH, LH, you know, cycles. And then we also have some kind of, let me just see, they had a couple of things in there. So the chrysin in there is really important. So the chrysin actually is an aromatase inhibitor. Remember I told you that estrogens will, testosterones will convert over to estrogens and they'll aromatize. The chrysin actually prevents that. So some of you that may be on testosterone may have had your doctor or functional medicine doctor put chrysin in your testosterone. Well, that's why it's there, because we don't want the testosterone to convert over to estrogen. That's the whole point of that. So the product has that in there. It also has some resveratrol, some green tea, which has some antioxidant benefits and hormone balancing effects. So, you know, it's a really, really comprehensive, very well thought out formula, meaningful dosages. That's really important to understand. Like sometimes I'll look at products and I call what's pixie dust amounts of something. You know, you want meaningful amounts of things, and these products cover that. There's a little bit of calcium, magnesium in there. Maybe why you don't see a lot is because maybe you guys have taken a magnesium pill and they're about that big for just 150 milligrams. They're very large molecules, so you can't really force feed them in a product because they just take up way too much space. But we got a little bit in there, you know, and then they also will help with cramping. One of the products that's a really great one if you are dealing with cramps during your menstrual cycle or any kind of muscle cramps, is the magnesium gel.
Yep. It's right here.
Okay, so you can actually rub that on your belly.
We call it the quick magnesium.
Quick magnesium, right? That's exactly what it is. So basically, you're just going to deal with this and pop it on your belly and just, you know, rub it in. It is a salt base. So if you're going to use it on other areas of your body for muscle cramps, make sure you didn't shave your legs because it's going to sting a bit. So just keep that in mind. It is a salt base. So in any event,
so that's how it looks. Clear. It's clear.
Very clear.
Yeah.
So if you need more magnesium, you can get it in through supplements. You can get it topically. There's different ways of delivering. But I would say the Wise Woman Support is one of my favorite foundational products for all those issues that I listed that a lot of women are dealing with: PMS, irregular periods, you know, levels of cervical dysplasia, you know. So yeah, it's a really good foundational product.
Yeah. Awesome.
And you could build on that with the Estro Support and the Brocco powder. It's not one or the other.
Yeah.
So
they all have a place.
They all have their place
to play.
You can combine all of them.
So the Estro kit has them all. Here's the thing, like if you feel like it's just too much stuff all at once, then what would you say people should start off with?
I think it's going to depend on what their symptoms are.
Okay.
So I like to let people decide on what's bothering them. Somebody's really dealing with irregular menstrual cycles. You could try the Wise Woman Support first, see if that helps. Still take it, but then if it's like not the big thing that kicks it off, then you could add on one of the other products. But for that type of stuff, menstrual cycle, follic stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, I would start with that Wise Woman Support first, and then build on top of that if you're not finding your symptomologies improving.
That's a very smart strategy, and so we're gonna post the link as well. You know,
because this product does have some DIM in there and some sulforaphane in there. But you remember, like I told you, a powdered form will get some bioavailability, but not the maximum bioavailability. Why we can't do this in a soft gel is because not every material you can pop in a soft gel delivery system. Plus, when you have multiple nutrients in a product, it's harder to do a delivery into a soft gel. So keep that in mind. But you will get some DIM in this, and you will get some sulforaphane, which is in the Brocco powder, in this Wise Woman Support. So again, a really, really great comprehensive foundational product.
We have questions coming in asking where can I get the product from. Hey you guys, so I posted it's on Hormone Balance Nutritionals. I posted the link. Just look at the comments, you'll find it there. And later I will change that, I will add that to the title. People are asking, Sherry saying, I can't use any hormones. Well, we don't have any hormones in these products, so you're good. Sonia is saying, I had a thyroid goiter twice its size. Many years ago, I ate a lot of fish for years and then went back to doctor, told him that what another said, and he checked it. He said it was all gone to regular size and still is.
Happy face.
Okay, happy face. So that's
good news.
Yeah. Does Wise Women Support have maca in it? Nope. There's no maca in it. Yeah, maca is an interesting one. It's either your body loves it and responds well to it, or it's like you go the other way when you start getting hot flashes. By the way, Wise Women Balance is also for, like, if you have hot flashes, that can help as well.
Absolutely. Yes.
And one thing I just want to kind of alluded to that at the beginning, we said that just because you have menopause, it doesn't mean you do not have estrogen dominance. You can still be heading for menopause, be in menopause, and have estrogen dominance. And the reason why that happens is for two things. One is that there is insufficient progesterone to oppose estradiol. But on the other hand, you also, the way these estrogens break down to metabolites, you have too many of the bad guys. Even though you're low on estrogen, you have too many of the bad guys as compared to the good guys. And that can still be causing a lot of symptoms of estrogen dominance. Wise Women Balance is really excellent.
Oh, and by the way, FC, this is why I need my cheat sheet. One of the other ingredients, this is like, this was saying how robust this product is, calcium D-glucarate. Calcium D-glucarate is very important.
Thank you.
Because this is going to actually clear out estrogens. That actually is a big estrogen clearer. So the calcium D-glucarate actually metabolizes estrogens down and out.
And that's part of
the
Wise Women Balance. Yeah, that's awesome. Julie's asking, can I take all these products together?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And in case you missed this, that I absolutely love this one, the magnesium. It's and so it's a little bit stingy. The good thing is that it takes about 20 minutes to absorb. So if that bothers you, then just go and
you'll see that little salt
off.
Residue right on top.
Yeah, there's a bit of residue. It's whitish.
It's just salt. All it is.
It is salt. It's actually salt from a bed of seabeds, and it's different from Epsom salts, because Epsom salts is magnesium sulfates, where this is magnesium chloride, and so it's a different form of magnesium. A lot of women actually have the CBS mutation, which is you don't process sulfur as well as you should or could if you didn't have that mutation. So for example, I don't do very well with Epsom salts. There's a little caveat here. If you're not feeling great from Epsom salts, then it kind of tells you might have a problem with sulfur. Then things like this, so the magnesium in a chloride form is really wonderful to add on, like rubbing it on your tummy. But also, I've had so many women tell us, like, they had an injury, like a shoulder injury, they have a pain on their lower back, right? And then just applying that topically, it just completely like makes them sleep so much better. And sleep is so important, you guys. And estrogen dominance, I don't feel like I don't need to mention that. Missy's asking, are all these products natural, no chemicals added?
No, there's no chemicals added. Nothing like
there's no chemicals. Also, this is all without gluten, but we don't using any dairy. It's free of corn. We also, there's non-GMOs.
Non-GMOs, so,
Yeah. Mahtab is saying, I have not been able to lose weight at all. Though I am on perfect nutrition and exercise. I'm 51 and my menstruation is 25 days as opposed to 29 or 30. Do I have estrogen dominance?
Yeah, you're going through that classic perimenopausal time right now into menopause, which is exactly what we've been talking about, where the progesterone's going a little lower, the estrogen's going a little higher. Thyroid may be getting affected, all the things we chatted about today. So, again, finding a responsible practitioner that you could work with that will run the appropriate tests to see not only your thyroid, but your hormone levels, see where your progesterone's at in response to where your estrogen is at.
Lauren is asking, is this similar to castor oil? No, not at all. It's totally different. Yeah, we do not have any. So Michelle is asking, are your products safe for heart patients?
These ones will be, yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then when you say like heart patients, if you don't mind following up, like, you know, you got different like levels of it. You got cholesterol issues, you got hypertension, you got things of that nature. So there's a lot of, when I hear cardiovascular issues, like my mind goes into about like 5 different things. So if you have a specific cardiovascular issue, feel free to pop that on there, what you're talking about.
Yeah, that or get that cleared with your doctor to make sure you're good to go. Would this help endometriosis? Absolutely. I think, Octavia, you probably missed the initial part. Absolutely. So that's part of that estrogen, endometriosis. So the endometriosis, the endometrial tissue grows because of estrogen dominance, all the reasons we talked about, too little progesterone, too many of those bad metabolites of estrogens. So definitely yes. Are there any estrogenic herbs in the supplements? Anna is asking.
No, there's nothing that's going to be in there that stimulates estrogen production at all. So you're fine on that. Again, what we're focusing on is the balancing and the metabolizing of those estrogens.
Right.
So that's the biggest.
Not giving you more. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, and just on that point, it's actually kind of interesting because a lot of women are afraid of flaxseed, right, being estrogenic. Mm-hmm. An interesting thing is that even though like you need estrogen to function well, period, especially going to perimenopause, your estrogen is slowly coming down too. There's nothing wrong with adding flaxseed and adding additional progesterone. In fact, I love flaxseed because it actually helps with the thing we're talking about, these supplements, what they do, helps you to detoxify, metabolize estrogens as well. So definitely a good addition, nothing to be afraid of. Michelle is saying, I had an open heart surgery and bottom of my heart is diffuse and working at 60%.
Yeah. You know what? It's like Magdalena said. I mean, you always want to chat with your doctor, not that they are, you know, if you can get somebody that really knows functional medicine and, you know, can advise you. We're in a position where we can't advise, but I will say these products shouldn't affect that, but you always want clearance and an open dialogue with your physician.
Yeah. Michelle is saying, let's see, this one is a good question. Julie is saying, what would you recommend starting for women in their 20s to help from getting estrogen dominance later in their 40s?
Well, that's kind of, I don't, like, again, making the appropriate lifestyle. Most women, and I don't know if you have a thought on this, most women will have some level of an experience of estrogen dominance. How much that is really going to depend on all these things. So in your 20s, I say enjoy them, but you know, because that shouldn't be an issue right now. I mean, you go on symptomology. If you find you're having symptoms, then by all means, you can get on. Again, the female, the women's hormone balance would be a really, really nice one. Just again, if you feel you have symptomology, that would dictate taking that product in your 20s. You may start seeing it more in your 30s. And then obviously for the listeners out there that are in their 40s and 50s, you know the drill. It gets a little bit harder each decade. So I think your 20s overall, you should be pretty safe. But if you feel, it doesn't mean that in your 20s you can't have estrogen. You can actually have estrogen dominance again if the lifestyle is bad, the body's overproducing it. If you're overweight, that the estrogen dominance can absolutely happen.
So actually, that's a good question since you're talking about this. Angela is saying, what foods should you avoid if you're estrogen dominant? So I'll take that question. You know, anything that inhibits your liver. And so the first thing I would say is going to be alcohol is big. There's studies that show like how even 2 glasses of wine a day can cause so much of estrogen dominance is connected directly to having very fibrocystic breasts. You know, coffee for some women, unfortunately, especially if you're slow coffee metabolizer, coffee can be a big contributor towards that. So that's one thing. We talked about at the beginning of the call, always doing everything organic, highly anti-inflammatory diet, taking care of your gut. There is a subset of bacteria in the gut called the estrobolome that helps to metabolize estrogens as well. So you want to make sure, you know, using good probiotics.
And when we deal with like the anti-inflammatory diet, we really, that really ties into insulin. We don't want to stimulate insulin all the time because insulin is very pro-inflammatory. So things that are going to stimulate insulin is more of the carbohydrate. So again, you know, the refined, you know, flours and pastas and things of that nature, things that are going to just let insulin run havoc and cause, you know, excess inflammation in the body are things you really want to avoid. Again, as clean as possible.
Yeah.
with good sources of carbohydrates.
Julia is saying, will this video be available after to rewatch? So much amazing information. Yes, it will be. It's going to live there for a long time. Sonia is saying, I'm not sure if I'm understanding it. Some doctor, I think, only want to work with me on their hormone programs. If you can take them, might not agree with your products or any other counter types, like the ones you can get on the health store. What does the person do? I'm not sure, Sonia, do you understand the question?
Are you Sonia, if you want to do a follow-up, so they rather have you take over-the-counter supplements versus these? Is that what you're saying? Which I can get into a whole big thing on it. Pop that on there if you're still on, as to if I'm correct. They're okay with you taking something over the counter versus buying these products. Let me know if I'm correct.
Michelle is talking about polycystic, so PCOS, and would this help with off-the-wall levels? She's only 18 and very irregular periods.
You know, it can help. PCOS is a different monster.
I want to do another call on that.
So that has to do a lot with insulin resistance, and
sugar balance,
and higher test androgen production. So
Sonia, what I would suggest is go to hormonesbalance.com, my website. Make sure you're on my list, and we are going to be doing, because sugar balance is one of the tenets of hormonal balance, and so we're gonna do another talk on that, on dietary changes, but also like some of the supplements you can add on to your protocol for rebalancing sugar levels and reversing insulin resistance. But that's the word for it. PCOS is typically equated to sugar issues. Yeah. So you want to look into that. We want to just be very focused on this call on that. So if you're menopausal, the 3 capsules are a good choice. You mean the 3 products, I think she meant.
Sure.
Yes.
And again, monitor your symptoms. The big thing is as I can't stress enough, is everybody's their own individuality. So know what your symptoms are, see how they improve on these products. You could start with one and build on top of it, or you could start with all 3.
Okay, great. All right, you guys, we're coming to the top of the hour. I think it's been quite a comprehensive call today. Post your questions and I will look at them on Monday. So if you're watching this on replay, I will answer them on Monday. If you have any questions, and I'm gonna jump on. I'll let you know. So awesome! Thank you so much for all these wonderful questions. I'm gonna post the link one more time on top. We're gonna pin it. So it's Hormone Balance Nutritionals. This is where you have these wonderful. Starting off, just to wrap this up. So starting off with Wise Women's Balance. That's really the one that's gonna be the foundation of managing estrogen dominance, and then adding on DIM, which in our case is called Estro Support. And then adding on Brocco Powder if the DIM alone doesn't work.
And remember, the DIM is the one that's going to raise the protective estrogens, the 2-hydroxyestrones. So that's really important.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks everybody for showing up. Appreciate it.
All right, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.